I'm gonna try this right now and we'll see how this fresh garlic tastes. Guten Yardening, everybody. Now I'm sitting here underneath this beautiful tomato plant because I'm ready to harvest what's growing directly underneath. And what's growing directly underneath is a first-time crop for us, and that is organic garlic. Now we planted this organic garlic last fall, and we even created a short video showing you how to go through the process of planting garlic. And I'm going to show you that video right now.
Can you plant garlic that you bought at the store? Absolutely. Take some organic garlic, take off the papery outside layer, and separate into individual cloves. Plant your cloves approximately 3 inches deep and approximately 6 inches apart. When planting your cloves in the ground, the flat side goes downward and the side that's bent over, that goes up. Cover with the soil, and the last step is to add a layer of mulch. We're using hay for our mulch, up to about 1/2 foot. This will help protect from the cold of the winter and will keep the moisture in. This garlic is good to grow.
Now, interestingly enough, right after we did that planting, and I mean literally the next day, something came in and dug around, and I was afraid that we had lost our entire possibility of a harvest. However, that wasn't the case. In fact, it was quite early in the spring when we started to see shoots popping up through our layer of mulch, and we knew we were going to actually get something. But the question was, what exactly would our first garlic harvest look like? Well, we're gonna find out the answer to that today as we harvest the rest of the garlic that's in here. And I'm also gonna talk to you about what we're gonna do with the garlic once it's harvested. Now, we did already harvest one bunch of garlic in a recent video where we talked about overwintering vegetables. And so we know that that garlic bunch really, I think, looked nice. In fact, here it is right now. This is about a week out of drying, and we still have some time to let this dry out, and I'll talk more about that here in a second. But this is what it looks like, our very first garlic bunch. And now let's get in here and get the rest of these harvested. Now, I mentioned that we had tomatoes growing up above, and this is something that we planted after our garlic had already established itself this spring. And the reason we did that was to take advantage of all of this surface area. So there are actually 2 tomato plants growing in here while the garlic was finishing off. And those plants are now, I would say, about 2.5 to 3 feet tall. They're really spread out. You can see lots and lots of buds on here. And so we're gonna have plenty of tomatoes coming out of here. So it's nice that we're able to get one harvest completed in here and already have something else to replace it, taking advantage of all the space that we have. Take a look at those tomatoes right there. We're gonna have so many like that in all these growing spaces. Now, we did just go through and trim out the lower stems of these tomatoes to open things up a little bit. And I think you can see, since we thinned this out, that it's much easier to see the garlic that's actually still left in here, make it easier for us to access everything. And one thing I learned from the first garlic harvest, these grow way deep down in there. Now, we don't want to just pull on the stem. The soil isn't loose enough for that. We haven't been watering in here the last couple of weeks, and that's one of the things that is recommended. You harvest these once there's maybe a little bit of green left on here, not too much green. They're starting to flop over like this, but you stop watering about 2 weeks prior to harvest to try to prevent any kind of discoloration or rotting or anything like that on your garlic in general. You want these to look nice. And this reminds me a lot of harvesting and then keeping onions. I mean, they're related to onions in many ways, but this idea of what we have to do after we harvest really reminds me of that. I'm going to dig down in here, and one thing I want you to notice, this is just hay, and it's also ground up corn stalks. That's what we used as a mulch in here. And I would say we have probably 1.5 to 2 inches of that mulch. So we've created a nice layer to keep the moisture in. I've read that you can remove that mulch layer once the garlic itself starts growing in the spring, but you can also leave it on to keep the weeds down. Now, one of the benefits of growing in a container like this is that we have complete control over the soil that we're growing in. And while this does have some of our native soil in it, it's a pretty loose soil. It's a pretty dry soil as well, again, because we stopped going in here and watering for the past 2 weeks or so. And even though we've had some rain, it's still pretty dry. But you can see what I mean when I say this is way down in here. And I've dug this out. Oh, there we go. And I'm uncovering the bulb right here. So you can see that. I'm going to be as gentle as possible because I know there are two side by side. And I'm going to pull this out of here. Pull this right. Oh, here it comes. Look at this. Oh, wow. Beautiful. This was planted from store-bought organic garlic. And I know a lot of times the recommendation is to find somebody who sells garlic seed and plant that and it'll do better. But this looks fantastic. Look at the size of this. So, all right, I can see, here's the second one right beside it. Oh, there we go. The sizes, the size on these are fantastic. As far as I'm concerned, this is at least as big as the bunch that we took the initial cloves from. You know, this feels somewhat like harvesting potatoes and sweet potatoes, which, as you know, if you follow our channel, is our, I don't want to say our specialty, but certainly one of our favorite things to do, that idea of discovery. And that's this root crop here, there we go, get right in behind it. These garlic are the same way. We're discovering the size. Wow. This one, look at this. These are absolutely fabulous. First year, first time growing, and we're seeing these results. Honestly, when we started this, I had no idea what to expect in terms of actual outcome of size. And I couldn't be more pleased. Now, one more thing I want to repeat, and that is that we were very consistent in our watering at least once a week, not over watering, but while this was growing, making sure that we had at least the top inch beneath all of this mulch watered so that these wouldn't dry out. There we go. And I think, this is the payoff. It almost seems like each one of these gets bigger than the next one. I can't wait to put these all together. You know what it looks like to me? That we're going to have about a half a dozen of these bunches all told. But based on these results, we are definitely going to plant more this fall. We're going to plant the whole bunch. Now, in our zone, the average harvest time is somewhere between late June and late July. So we probably could have harvested these anytime in the last week or so, maybe even the last 2 weeks, I would say. But I don't think we overweighted. I don't see any problems with discoloration. They're not rotting or anything like that. So I think our timing here is just fine. So it looks like there's a tiny one here that got detached, but I don't know if anything really developed underneath. I don't feel anything down here. I thought maybe there was a possibility of something that detached, but let's see. Oh, nope, there it is. There's a little mini one right there. Okay, well, I'm glad we didn't miss you. This one actually, it's coming out of the bunch. I don't know, something about this one seems like it is not really all that solid, but you know what this gives us an opportunity to do is to taste some of this fresh garlic and maybe get a little description here to see how it compares to the store. Well, here is our harvest, and I am so pleased with the results, especially for a first time. The size of all of these bunches is fantastic. You know, we have had this one out drying for about a week, and I'll show you the difference. If you can see the difference here, one that's been drying and one that hasn't. And so we're going to give these, as recommended, about 2 to 3 weeks in a nice dry, airy location that's not too hot. And probably our front porch, which is where we usually cure our onions, will be perfect. And really, these do remind me of the same process for onions, because after they have cured, after they've been able to dry out, we'll just cut about an inch or so above the bunch, and that will be what we are storing. Now, these are fantastic, and I wasn't going to open any, and I wasn't even going to get to try any for a couple of weeks, and then we harvested this last one, this miniature one, that gave us, well, one of these cloves opened up. And so I'm going to go ahead and try this now. I should tell you that I love garlic. I love the smell, I love the taste. Added to anything, it makes everything better, in my opinion. So I'm going to try this right now, and we'll see how this fresh garlic tastes. Now, again, I've never had garlic fresh from the garden. It's kind of like our fig earlier this season. I've never had one of these fresh out of the ground. So here we go. Well, I can tell you immediately that is a strong taste. It's definitely stronger, in my opinion, than what I get at the store. There's a bite to it, as you would with a garlic, but it's also, in my mind, it's a little bit sweet. I don't know if that makes sense, if garlic can be sweet. Boy, the aroma is really strong now all around me of that garlic. But that is absolutely outstanding. And garlic is really healthy for you. I know people who, when they're about to get a cold, will take a whole bunch of garlic capsules or eat garlic or even drink garlic tea. And they've told me that that really helps. So garlic, while it tastes amazing and adds a ton to our dishes, is also really healthy and a great addition to any garden. Well, one thing we know for sure is we are definitely going to plant more. We're going to dedicate more space to garlic for next season. After all, it's just overwintering, and then it comes up here in the spring, and so it's not like there's a ton of care over the winter anyway. So we'll be planting that soon, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we're going to enjoy some of this. We're going to dry it out, get it ready for us, and we'll have garlic for a good bit of time going forward. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. It's always nice to have a good harvest, especially when you don't know what to expect. But if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give us a like, leave a comment, remember to share with your friends and family, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.